Hello everybody. I've been asked to provide a little bit of background information about a workshop we organize next week at a series of workshops called the Alpine Rendezvous. And the one I'm involved in is about context-aware recommendation for learning. And basically I've been asked to answer 4 questions. The first one is, how and where does your workshop promote science? What to say? It's a scientific workshop. Therefore, I think, sort of by definition, it promotes science. Maybe I should mention that a workshop is about how we can leverage context to recommend stuff for learning. And the stuff in this context can be activities, it can be resources, learning objects, and it can also be people, or maybe some other things as well, but those would be the 3 we were thinking of originally. And of course there's a lot of, I think, rather deep scientific questions associated with that topic. How do we model context? How do we describe context? How do we capture context? How do we process context in order to recommend the stuff I mentioned earlier on? And how do we evaluate that this works? Those are all, I think, pretty good scientific questions. There's people researching this in the area of technology-enhanced learning, but there's certainly also research activities in the fields of ambient computing, ubiquitous computing, and those sorts of topics that basically deal with the same question. So far for promoting science. The second question I've been asked to address is, how does the workshop improve the understanding of technology-enhanced learning? I guess my answer would be that the workshop focuses on one of the core issues related to the holy grail of technology-enhanced learning. I think many of us have been working on the idea that we can automatically create a learning environment that is really tailored to the learner, whether it's, a kid or a professional or an elderly or whatever else. And I think many of you will know that in my personal work I've done quite a bit of thinking around the theme of the snowflake effect, where the idea is that, like every snowflake in a snowstorm, we are all unique, and therefore learning environments should adapt to our unique characteristics. And if the workshop helps to understand how we can, as I mentioned, leverage context to achieve that, to personalize the environment, then I think it will definitely have, as the question asked, improved our understanding of technology-enhanced learning. The third question I've been asked to address is, how does your workshop bring together networks of mid-tier researchers? Well, I must say that first of all, I'm not completely sure I understand the notion of mid-tier researchers. For me, it has a little bit of an ugly connotation. There's the upper tier, the mid-tier, and the lower tier of researchers, and then I guess the elite is in the upper tier, and I'm not sure who's in the mid-tier. I guess everyone who's not in the elite or not, at the bottom layer. But I guess the question tries to get to the notion of collaboration. I think it's kind of obvious that most workshops are all about collaboration. We intend this to be a pretty dynamic and a pretty interactive, discussion-oriented event. We will openly publish all the abstracts, those are already on the website, but we will also later on work on a set of full papers that again we will share quite openly. And so I think that will help to improve how people collaborate in research on this theme. And I hope that sort of addresses the third question. And finally, the last question was about how does your workshop account for building new networks? I think it's a little bit of a variation on the previous theme. New networks, I'm not completely sure what I should think about that. I think there's already way too many networks if you want. The workshops, by the way, are sponsored by the Network of Excellence Stellar. I think what I'm certainly quite pleased with is the fact that it's not just the usual suspects that will be presenting at the workshop. I'm sure there are some institutes that are quite well known for their research in this area, but typically it's more PhD students presenting work, it's more current work, maybe a little bit less mature, but I think many of us have the experience that sharing that work early, discussing it with colleagues rather than just presenting it, looking at what is interrelated and how what different groups do is different but maybe complementary or just different, and then why and what does that mean and what does that imply, etc., are interesting questions. So I think it's again basically about helping people to work better together, to get a clearer focus on what the important issues are. And if anything, and maybe to round off this short video, if anything, I would invite all of you who work on related teams related to context-aware recommendation for learning. I would invite all of you to join the conversation. Even if you're not at the workshop next week, you will no doubt be able to share your thoughts, your opinions. I'll post this video on my blog, so you can leave a comment there. And I'm sure that you'll hear more about the outcomes of the workshop in a bit. And eventually we plan to do like a special issue of a journal. Actually, we will discuss also how we can maybe improve the community of people who research on this theme, and how we can support that research. So if you have any suggestions in that area, and if you can get them to us before Tuesday evening next week, we will still include them in the discussion. And even if you are only hearing this or seeing this after the workshop took place, we're still terribly interested in your feedback. There's a lot of work to be done to make context-aware recommendation for learning work. And if we can divide that work a little bit, if you can help us to tackle the issues, we can all make more progress more swiftly. I hope this was useful. Let me know what you think. Bye.